Shalom, shalom. I know that it is a little bit unorthodox to use the Kybalion as a reference work to the teachings that I am about to review, but for one that is completely ignorant of anything that I will teach in the future, they should watch this video. This book I recommend to everyone. When something is outside of the tradition, the Christian, of the Jewish tradition, or how do you say is Judeo-Christian tradition. Sorry, that's what I wanted to say. They should use this book, not in terms of Kemet, which is Egypt, not in that sense or in any Roman sense, but because this book is science. This is where science started. The lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. The Hermes Trismegistus, known by the ancient Egyptians as the great and master of masters. Well, on the way how we interpret things like this, we should look out. We should look out that we are not walking after any false doctrine. But because this book is talking about the Hermetic philosophy, so has a good introduction on this, it's good. After we can find a complete audiobook on YouTube, it is also good to obtain a physical copy for ourselves, because we do have here the letters that matter. The Hermetic philosophy, the 7 Hermetic principles, the mental transmutation, the all, the mental universe, the divine paradox, the all in all, the planes of correspondence. And what are those? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and about the other. When people are talking about a vibe, you are giving me a bad vibe, or you are polarizing the media. They are talking about vibration. They are talking about polarity. When your opinion is polarized, it's because the media is controlling, for example, public opinion. When we are talking about vibe, we are talking about vibration. Vibration is on page 86. Oh, we are beyond this. Okay. Vibration. The great third Hermetic principle, the principle of vibration, embodies the truth that motion is manifest in everything in the universe, that nothing is at rest, and that everything moves, vibrates, and circles. The Hermetic principle was recognized by some of the early Greek philosophers who embodied it in their system. But then, for centuries, it was lost sight of thinkers outside of the Hermetic ranks. But in the 19th century, the physical science rediscovered the truth, and the 20th century scientific discoveries have added additional proof of the correctness, the truth of this centuries old Hermetic doctrine. The Hermetic teachings are that not only is everything in constant movement and vibration, but the differences between the various manifestations of the universal power, due entirely to the varying rate and mode of vibration. Not only this, but that even the all is itself manifests in a constant vibration of such an infinite degree of intensity and rapid motion that it may be practically considered as at rest. The teachers directing the attention of the students to the fact that even on the physical plane of rapidly moving objects such as revolving wheel seems to be at rest. The teachings are to the effect that spirit is at the end of the pole of vibration, the other pole being certain extremely gross form of matter. Between these two poles are millions upon millions of different rates and modes of vibration. Modern science has proven that all that we call matter and energy are but modes of vibratory motion, and some of the more advanced scientists are rapidly moving towards the positions of the occultists who hold that the phenomena of mind are likewise modes of vibration or motion. Let us see what science has to say regarding the question of vibrations in the matter and energy. In the first place, science teaches that all matter manifests in some degree. The vibrations arise from temperature or heat, be an object cold or hot, being but degrees of same things. It manifests certain heat vibrations, and that in sense is in motion and vibration. Then all particles of matter are in circular movement, from corpuscle to suns. The planets revolve around suns, and many of them turn on their axis. The suns move around greater central points, and these are believed to move around still greater, and so on ad infinitum. The molecules of which the particular kinds of matter are composed are in a state of constant vibration and movement around each other and against each other. The molecules are composed of other atoms, which likewise are in a state of constant movement and vibrations. The atoms are composed of corpuscles, sometimes called electrons, ions, etc., which are in a state of rapid motion, revolving around each other, and which manifest a very rapid state and mode of vibration. When I made my other video about the heart, I was referring to this. The heart vibrates. The heart has a rhythm. And about rhythm, we can read in 110. And in the secular world, I am a musician. I'm also a computer scientist. So when we are talking about this, understand well that even vibration is rhythm, because every hertz has milliseconds in its phase of pumping. So the heart has a vibration, which is a hertz, which is measurable in rhythm, in BPM, beats per minute, in milliseconds, in intervals. The great fifth Hermetic principle, the principle of rhythm, embodies the truth that in everything that is manifested a measured motion, a to and from movement, a flow and inflow, a swing forward and backward, and a pendulum like movement, a tide like ebb and flow, a high tide and a low tide between the two poles manifests on the physical, mental, or spiritual planes. The principle of rhythm is closely connected with the principle of polarity described in the preceding chapter. Rhythm manifests between the two poles, established by the principle of polarity. This does not mean, however, that the pendulum of rhythm swings to the extreme poles, for this rarely happens. In fact, it is difficult to establish the extreme polar opposites in the majority of cases, but the swing is ever toward first one pole and then the other. Positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. When something is facing in the negative, as in the same as it is in positive, in the same phases, when they are opposed and one phase is, for example, 30 hertz and the other is also 30 hertz, but one phase is flipped, is inverted 180 degrees, then they will cancel each other out and then there will be 0 degrees, a flat line. When we see this cosinus and sinus, we can see in this calculus book how one wave is facing and one other phase has the same frequency but is facing in a different degree because it's starting from a different degree. That's why they are not in sync. That's why they are not stacking up, because they will twice as high. They will be increasing in Y. Here we can also see this. A very low frequency and very high frequency. That is when we are that is the matter what we are talking about when we say when something is vibrating high. When we have, for example, this precious stone, this crystal, people are believing in this crystals, vibration, Tibetan singing bowls, and they don't know what they are talking about. Vibrations are something very sacred, as they make up the vibration of life. When you are breathing in this space, you are not healthy when it is compared to your heartbeat. When this is your heartbeat and this is your breathing, you are completely unhealthy. It can be that you are misaligned, but then you need to bring it in alignment again. And then you don't need to cancel each other out when you flip. For example, 180 degrees, this, then we do have phase cancellation. What happens? Then we get a very, what was this? Then we can get stuff like this, like very uneven phases that are being cancelled out. This is all functions. Back to the drawing. So that is one of the things that we need to keep in mind here when we are talking about vibrations. We are not talking about vibes, about you're giving me a good or bad vibe. What is that? You have a high or a low vibration, and when you are talking about do this and then you will vibrate high, what does it mean to vibrate high? What it means to vibrate high is that your pace of operation increased. Is this your heart rate? Is this your breathing? Is this the resonance of your magnetic field around you? When we are talking about a field, we are talking about circles. Something that's making a circular motion and is projected all around us in a circle, in a sphere actually. So this picture is the most appropriate picture that I could come up with. When pi is referred to as frequency in cosinus and in sinus, as we saw earlier. And let's see if we can find it again. I hope it will not be that difficult. Surrounding. When we say that every circle is, I hope that everyone can follow this, but that every circle matches up with its own frequency. This depends the field, the electromagnetic field of our sphere around us, our surrounding, our being, our magnetosphere. Just like how the planet has a magnetosphere, so does our body have one. Our heart operates like this, at a vibration, a rhythm. But is this what people mean when they are talking about vibration? When I hold this stone, I actually do believe that it amplifies a certain aspect of my frequency and a certain amount of growth. Why is this? Why do I believe this? Because certain stones, I don't know with this stone, but certain stones do have copper and iron in there. And if you know a little bit of alchemy, then you know that these affect our spirit, our body. They touch us. So our metaphysical body consumes some of the energy. We are using the energy, but the energy is also being amplified. We are projecting it back into the world, and projecting happens around us. We are the center, and then we are not only this body, but also the sphere, which people tend to call aura. People can call it aura, prana, whatsoever. In a digital sense, we have different samples, sample rate, which also happens in a frequency, but because it's not analog like this perfect sine wave, we are sampling it in digital information, zeros and ones. That's when we are working with limits and integrals and stuff. It's very interesting for computing, but not for the for this what I want to show. I just want to grab some mathematical constructs and show you how these hold up. Also, I'm not a mathematical guru, so yes. So, of course, this is what I meant. We do have a triangle, and we do have angles, we do have circles. And here, this is what I wanted to show. We do have pi, which can be referred to as radians. 180 degrees is pi. In this table, I wish I saw it when I was at school, because when I was at school, it was all that difficult. Pi divided by 2 is 90, but pi is 180. And from this we can probe 45 instead of 2, 4. 90 divided by 3 is 30, which is 6. It's 3 times 2. Well, this is not hard to understand, right? 3 times 2, bam, 6. Okay. Um, times 3 or divided by 6, 0. Divided by 3, 0. Um, times 2 minus 1, pop, pop, 0, 9, 180. So numbers are information. With these numbers we can probe, we can see how reality around us can be measured. These are facts. Maths are facts. But when someone is talking about vibration, what do they mean? Vibration about gender, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus. Yes. Mental gender, no. You can say mental vibrations. Delta waves, gamma waves, theta waves, which are happening in our brains. But all of this is not necessarily a construct that we can work with. So we want to dive a little bit deeper in vibration again. Science have offered the illustration of a rapidly moving wheel, top or cylinder to show the effects of increasing rates of vibration. The illustration supports a wheel top of revolving cylinder running at a low rate of speed. We will call this revolving thing the object. Before we continue reading, I want to say that when you have low vibrations, they require more power in order to observe them, because at some point you will feel them, and when they become more audible you will hear them and be less likely to hear them unless they are in range of 2 kilohertz and 8 kilohertz, where the human perception in the ears is as high as we can audit them. Every planet in the universe, according to NASA, has a single frequency. And with frequency, we mean vibration. And with vibration, we mean cycles, which is hertz. These cycles of circular movement create a frequency, and some frequencies are not even audible, but we feel them. For example, when they are below 20. Some of them are not necessarily not audible, but if we feel, for example, something as low as 108 hertz, perfectly 108, which is the A note, which is Jupiter. We cannot imagine what it feels like if it is turned off. We will immediately tremendously feel what will happen to our bodies. Maybe they will even shatter if they are playing the frequency 109. Why? Because the matrix of this set of rules, all these frequencies that are playing at the same time simultaneously to sustain us in this world, and our metaphysical frequency, vibration, will be altered. So when we live in this world with 5G, for example, people have been complaining about this, how this alters the vibration of people. I can only agree that this can be actually true. It will play gigahertz, but it will alter the frequencies because this will happen in radio waves. And radio wave operation is frequency modulation. That means that the frequency is modulated by another frequency. And this is actually harmful for pure frequencies like sine waves. And I believe everything in the world is analog and is only to be broken down in pure sine waves. Computers make not sine waves, so that means that they are sampled. That means that that the sampled sine wave is being transmitted by sine waves because they are more powerful. But if you have a square wave, for example, this is being modulated with a sine wave, and this sine wave is harmful then because it has this impact to the body, especially when it is on a very high frequency. Of course, all the planets hold up in a certain scale. And here we are talking about the orbit in days around the sun. That is our primary point of from where we probe and where we refer to the period of days that it takes to cycle the sun. So 1 year on Mercury is 1.51 days. And here we do have the scaled frequencies. So that is the amount of days. And that's where we can derive the scale from. 8 to 5, 5 to 3, 3 to 2, etc. That are the intervals. In Hermeticism, all of the planets are referring to the tree of life. Keter, Hakma, Bina, Hesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzachot, Yesod, and Malkut. But it depends on the tradition you are following, whether these planets are in the right order. That's why I'm not working with one tree of life, but multiple trees of life, and that is why it is always interesting to probe from different findings. In an earlier video, we had red, blue, and yellow. So that's why I make different constructs to point to the same thing from a different point of view. So here we do have so many constructs, and I've been gathering and looking into the internet and into books and into whatsoever in order to get the truth, to see the truth for what it is. So Tiferet, for example, is pointing to the heart, and the heart is corresponding to gold, and gold is corresponding to the sun. And the sun also has a frequency. How does that work? Because the sun is not rotating as far as we know. It's not rotating up again around our planet. So that has to do with the radiance of the ratio of the light. Every time that the sun is being covered, we can probe from this interval how many times this happens, or how many times we see the interval of the sun rising and going under. And that is from where we can calculate vibrations. That is at least one technique that is used by NASA. So That is how it's being done. So that's why I highly recommend this book. Object throws off vibrations of light, heat, etc. It is not actually resolved into those forms of energy which are much higher in the scale, but simply that it reaches a degree of vibration in which those forms of energy are liberated in a degree from confining influences of its molecules, atoms, and corpuscles. As the case may be, these forms of energy are true much higher in the scale than matter, are imprisoned and confined into the material combinations by reason of the energy manifesting through and using material forms, but thus becoming entangled and confined in their creations of material forms, which to an extent is true of all creation. The creating force becoming involved in its creation, but the Hermetic teachings go much further than do those modern science. They teach that all manifestation of thought, emotion, reason, will, or desire, or any mental state of condition are accompanied by vibration, a portion of which are thrown off and which tend to affect the minds of other persons by induction. This is the principle which produces the phenomena of telepathy, mental influence, and other forms of the action and power of mind, over mind, and which the general public is rapidly becoming acquainted owing to wide dissemination of occult knowledge by various schools, cults, and teachers along these lines at this time. Every thought, emotion, or mental state has its corresponding rate and mode of vibration, and by an effort of will of the person or of other persons, these mental states may be reproduced, just as a musical note may be reproduced by causing an instrument to vibrate at a certain rate, just as color may be produced in the same way, because essentially we are seeing magnetical fields, which are vibrations. We are hearing vibrations, we are feeling vibrations, we are even smelling vibrations. Everything is magnetical fields. By a knowledge of the principle of vibration as applied to mental